So how did you come across owning this?
The Scripps Booth family donated. Well, you see that we have a lot. We have a number of Scripps Booth. Plus, we have a lot of the original drawings for this vehicle. They're really well known locally for their TV stations and their newspapers, but I think a lot of the Scripps Booth automotive history goes on, sadly, unrecognized.
Is there a trunk here? I guess there is.
Actually, that's just for access to the rear tire.
Okay.
So this is.
So it's a drive shaft.
Yeah.
Look at that. Is that rubber? It's solid rubber.
Originally, it would have had rubber tires on it. These are wooden.
That's wood. Okay.
At some point in its history, somebody cobbled these wood tires together for it, which work perfectly for display.
So is that a chain on that side? And it looks like a drive shaft on this side. Or maybe that's for the brake. Look at that. That's the brake right here.
Yep.
Wow. Does it run?
It does not. The motor's loose, and jokingly when we were doing the rest, they're like, well, we got to get it running. The problem is, what if it cracked? What if we snap a crank? It's the only one in existence.
So see, these tires were made for this vehicle.
Solid rubber too.
By AutoGo, Detroit, Michigan. Wow.
And again, you think 1913. So we're heavy.
Right at the beginning of the Model T.
Right. I mean, so all of these little pieces that are all one-ofs are all handmade for this car.
I mean, this the comical style of this fender.
Well, that fender is one piece of cast aluminum.
No kidding.
This whole cowl, from here to here, one piece of cast aluminum.
They made a mold just for one car.
Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine what it would take in 1913 to cast a piece that big? That's a big piece to cast in today's technology.
Yeah, right. Yep.
She's a great piece. Like I said, I'm so glad that we were able to restore it and stabilize it so it'll be around for another generation.
If you like these videos, you really should check out the Hagerty Drivers Club. You get 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, subscription to an award-winning magazine, and more. Sign up today. The link is in the description below. There are somewhere between 50 to 80 vehicles that the Detroit Historical Society has. 50 or so are in this building. This would be a real long episode if we had to unzip every one and explain it. Dave and I came up with an idea of unzipping the cars that I think you'd be most interested in learning about. So I know just enough about the gentleman that developed these cars, William Stout, to be dangerous. I do know this is a Stout Scarab, and I've actually gotten a ride in one. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Mr. Stout was an aircraft engineer, developed a tri-motor aircraft, which Ford utilized his patent. So not surprisingly, a lot of the driveline and pieces on these that are actual automotive pieces are Ford. So it's got a V860 mounted at the rear. The later version had a Mercury in it, but this is a Ford. So you figure there's nothing coming through the body, so you got a low step in for the pan. It makes moving around inside the car easier. They drove these. He built and drove a lot of these. They put 350,000 miles on the prototype, allegedly.
So how many were built of this?
So, and it's funny because with low production cars, it gets sticky. So 6 that we know of. Now there's 2 stories. One of them was that one was taken before they ever did anything with it, and they used it as an ice shanty here locally, and they didn't pull it off the ice, and when the ice thawed, it went in the lake, and they never recovered it. I've got pictures.
Has anybody gone searching?
Well, again, nobody seems to be able to pinpoint what lake.
Okay.
And we have pictures in our archives of a motorhome built on this platform, but is like another Stout long and another Stout and a half tall, sitting in the weeds in Florida.
You have pictures of that?
We have Polaroids of that car sitting from the 70s.
All right, if you're watching this show and you're from Florida, you have an assignment. You need to find that car.
So I had this car out at a show where there was actually three of them together for the first time since 1935. And he walks over to me and he goes, "Is this your car, young man?" I said, "Well, it's not mine. I'm the curator for the museum." He goes, "Do you want to learn about it?" "Yes, sir, I do." So we spent the whole day at a car show. He had binders of documentation. He showed me where where to look for all the numbers on these cars. And interestingly enough, this is a 35. If you look at the side of it, this is the only one that has the aluminum cladding that goes all the way around it, because they took it out the next year and wanted to show it as a 36. On the back side of the car, there's a little square emblem that says Stout Scarab, and it has the stylized beetle on it. This is the only car that has that.
So where was this built?
They were built in Michigan, in Dearborn on Livernois and Telegraph.
So William Stout was a partner of sorts to Henry Ford. He was an aircraft designer. As Dave said, he designed the tri-motor, which was a 3-motor Ford built aircraft, just a beautiful piece of equipment. of which a couple still exist, two
Yeah.
or three.
Yeah, there's actually still a couple that fly too, interestingly enough.
If you're ever cruising around Detroit, Dearborn area, I do it as often as I can. There's a place called the Dearborn Inn, and that was, well, the first tourist hotel in America, maybe the world, that was aimed towards keeping life comfortable and nice for people that traveled by plane. And so there was the Ford Airport, right across the street was the Dearborn Inn. Where the airport was is now the Ford Test Track, and you can go there and see that. But there's a brass plaque that pays tribute to William Stout, the tri-motor, the Stout Scarab on one side, and the other side it talks about the Dearborn Inn. So this has really deep Ford ties. If you think about an early aircraft, the interior of this looks much like an airplane would have looked in the day. I mean, now planes look totally different. You know, that the pilot, co-pilot would have sat in seats like this, passengers would have sat in seats like that. And so this is kind of an aircraft fuselage on four wheels, if you can imagine that. Now, is there enough cooling capacity for, you know, to keep that motor cool without having a grill in the front?
It's got a standard radiator in it, and if you walk back and look at the engine covers are also vented. They're cut so that it pushes air through here as the car is going down the road. Then the other kind of unique thing about it with the engine covers, they open like wings.
Look at that. All right, I'm going to tell you something. That's an 85 horsepower. It's not a V8 60.
It's not?
Nope. A V8 60 is very miniaturized.
Well, it's got the tin sides too. I thought that had the...
It's got aluminum heads, but yeah, so it's got a Stromberg 90